introduce yourself, spelling your last name for the record?
Sure, my name is Jackie Hunter. My last name is spelled Hunter.
Ms. Hunter, what do you do for a living?
I'm in a pretty good place right now. I really like my job. I work at the Midlands Voice. My mom could not be more proud of me, to be honest with you.
What's the Midlands Voice?
Only the top circulating newspaper in the greater Midlands area. Everybody in Midlands has heard of the Midlands Voice. Just last week we published an article. It was called "Man in Boxers Leads Police on Brief Chase." It's actually pretty funny. There have been a lot of call-ins about it. It's been pretty popular, to be honest with you.
Ms. Hunter, what is your job at the Midlands Voice?
I'm a writer. Well, I guess I intern for a writer. I kind of consider it the same thing. I get his coffee and donuts in the morning when I come into work, but that still beats what I was doing before, which is working at Rockter World.
When did you work at Rockter World?
2009, 2010, 2011, and part of 2012. Just long enough, I guess you could say, to figure out how unamusing working at amusement parks can really be.
What was your job at Rockter World?
That depends on what year you're asking about. The first year I was strictly cleanup crew, which as it turns out is quite literally the worst job anyone can have ever. Picking up messes after people is not my thing anymore.
What about the following years?
As character building as it was, picking up trash after patrons at the park day after day, I wasn't necessarily interested in doing that the following year when I came back to work at the park. So when they offered me a position as a floating ride operator, I jumped on that. I figured I'd give it a shot.
Ms. Hunter, what was your job duties as a floating ride operator?
I pretty much became the fill-in for people who had better things to do than sit around at a control panel pushing buttons for 8 hours a day. So people who just didn't show up for work, which happens a lot more often than you'd like to think, or people who needed breaks, people who got sick, that sort of thing.
Ms. Hunter, as a floating ride operator, did you receive any training?
Yes, I did. Some of the rides were a little bit more complicated to deal with than others, but I managed.
Did you receive any safety training?
I did.
What were you trained to do in case of an emergency?
In an emergency, the ride operator is supposed to flip the emergency switch on the ride. That gets a little bit easier said than done, though.
Why is that, Ms. Hunter?
Well, all of the control panels at Rockter World for the rides, they're all like very different. Different switches, buttons, levers, gears, so they get pretty easily confused if you're switching between them.
Ms. Hunter, now you say you worked at Rockter World, and when you were working there, did you ever meet anybody by the name of Whit Bowman?
Yeah, I did know Whit. The last summer I actually worked at Rockter World in 2012, before I made it as a big-time newspaper reporter. Well, I guess technically an intern for a big-time newspaper reporter, but I'm working on it.
Ms. Hunter, to your knowledge, what job did Whit Bowman work at Rockter World?
We went through training together to be ride operators, so that's what she was, as far as I knew.
You said that you were a floating ride operator. As a floating ride operator, have you ever worked the ride, the Tunnel of Terror before?
Yes, I have. Not very many times. I didn't get really the chance to work with that one that often, but I did work it.
Have you ever worked the ride, the Mind Eraser, before?
I also have worked that one, yes I have.
If I showed you a control panel of those two rides, would you recognize the ignorant court today?
Yeah, I'm sure.
May the record reflect that I'm approaching opposing counsel with defense exhibits A and B. Permission to approach the witness with the same.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Hunter, what did I just hand you?
Okay, both of these are control panels from rides at Rockter World. The first one is the control panel for the Tunnel of Terror ride, and then the second one is a control panel for the Mind Eraser ride.
Ms. Hunter, looking at the Mind Eraser, does that appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the control panel as you saw it when you worked at Rockter World?
Yeah, it's exactly as I remember it for all the years I worked there, 2009 through 2012.
Looking at the Tunnel of Terror, does that appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the control panel as you saw it when you worked at Rockter World?
Again, yeah, exactly as I remember it from 2009 through 2012.
The defense moves to admit defense exhibit A and B into evidence.
I have no objection to either document, Your Honor.
Would you like a courtesy copy?
Yes. Exhibit A and B will be submitted.
Permission to publish a copy to the jury?
Granted.
I brought along a bigger version of those exhibits. May the witness step down and make use of the demonstrative exhibit?
Yes.
Counsel, can you bring the tunnel of terror about 3 feet forward to get a reflection from the overhead light on it?
Yes.
Building was built in 1968 before they knew such things as light and windows.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. And now, Ms. Hunter, looking at the control panel for the Mind Eraser,
Okay.
how do you operate that ride?
Well, there are a lot of buttons on this control panel as compared to some of the other ones in the park, but the two that you really have to pay attention to are down here in the bottom right-hand corner, and they are the stop button and the green button. Obviously, or green button, excuse me, start button, which is green for go, red for stop.
Would you circle that for the members of the jury?
Yeah, sure.
Let the record reflect that this witness has circled the bottom right-hand corner to represent the start and stop button on the Mind Eraser.
The record shall reflect.
Now, what's in the bottom right-hand corner of the Tunnel of Terror?
On the Tunnel of Terror in the bottom right-hand corner is the blackout mode lever, which is different from the bottom right-hand corner of the Mind Eraser.
Would you circle that for the members of the jury?
Yeah, sure.
Let the record reflect that this witness has circled the bottom right-hand corner for the blackout mode of the Tunnel of Terror.
The record shall so reflect.
Now, you mentioned a blackout mode for the Tunnel of Terror.
Yes, ma'am?
Does the Mind Eraser have a blackout mode?
Yeah, it does. All of the rides at Rocky Road have a blackout mode feature.
Could you circle that for the members of the jury?
Yeah, sure. It's up here in the upper left-hand corner. Oh, sorry, blue.
Let the record reflect that this witness has circled the upper left-hand corner for the blackout mode on the Mind Eraser.
The record shall so reflect.
And what's in the top left-hand corner of the Tunnel of Terror?
That would be the start and stop buttons. Those are located in the top left of this one. And that's what I mean about them getting complicated. Like, these are the exact opposite of each other. Like, the controls are in the exact opposite place.
And let the record reflect that this witness has circled the top left-hand corner for the start and stop button on the Tunnel of Terror.
The record shall so reflect.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. You may retake your seat.
Thank you so much.
Now, Ms. Hunter, you mentioned blackout mode. Describe that to the members of the jury.
It's just a maintenance feature that shuts off all the lights on the ride, and then the cars in the ride keep moving.
To your knowledge, what ride did Whip Bowman normally work?
Whip Bowman was, her primary ride was the Mind Eraser as far as I knew. That's the one that she was always at when I was at the park.
Lastly, Ms. Hunter, I want to talk to you about some of the things that you may have seen over the summer of 2012. okay?
Sure.
Over the summer of 2012, did you ever see Whip Bowman take or receive any money or wristbands from customers?
No, that would have been the ticket booth operator's job. That wasn't, it was a ride operator.
In 2012, who was the ticket booth operator?
That was a guy named Cameron Poole.
In 2012, did you ever see Whip Bowman take or receive any money or wristbands from Cameron Poole?
No, I never saw anything like that.
Thank you. At this time, I have no further questions.